So it's Thursday the 19th of September and we're in Tewkesbury for a day at a haunted pub crawl. But first we're going to go into the John Moore Museum, which comprises the Naturalists Museum itself and a merchant's house and the Old Baptist Chapel. House by Jeremy Benson.
Our merchant probably didn't go to the Bartholomew Fair because it's too far. He'd have to take a few days away from the shop, cost a lot of money, so he'd probably be going to the fairs at Gloucester.
So these houses were built in 1410 by the Benedictine monks for obviously, business and property interests. And then when the abbey was dissolved, its account showed that it was receiving rents from 25 tenements standing in Church Street from the cemetery to Gander Lane, which lies east of the abbey. Here you can see some pictures. They're all being restored again at the moment as well.
Corncrake.
Oh, that's a corncrake.
Yeah, they have a distinctive sound as well.
Yes. There it goes. There's a cute little weasel. And some shrews. And bats.
Yeah.
There's a pygmy shrew.
Shrews and deers. Bloodsuckers.
And then daddy long legs, green flies.
It's about their season now, when they're mature.
Come rain, come shine. He recounts the devastating effects of flooding on his fictional town of Elmbury, which was a thinly disguised version of Tewkesbury. And there we have it. This is the John Moore Museum, and over there, which we saw earlier, the merchant's house. So our next stop might have to be the Bell, which is haunted. So we're going to go there now, hopefully for coffee. And now we're going to the Bell. This one is the haunting of a gentleman who wears like a top hat and an old coat. He's an older gentleman. I used to see him in the lounge at a table, and when they went to take his order he disappeared. But since they removed his portrait from upstairs, they haven't seen him again.
And the Bell, it's got a piano. An Elysian, it's quite a good make. Needs a good tune up, that semitone flat, but Dr. K, if you're ever in Tewkesbury, a bit of boogie woogie would certainly liven the vibe up here.
And this is the bar and restaurant. So this is the piece of wall that is dated to the 13th century. So even if this building is 1696, because it's got IK, which is possibly Isaac Kemble above the door, then it was obviously built on an older footprint. We're here in the lounge area waiting for our lunch. We've got a fish finger sandwich and a latte, which has been very nice. Okay. The lounge is said to be haunted by an elderly gentleman in old-fashioned clothing, top hat and a great coat. He sits at a table, and when somebody approaches him to take his order, he disappears. However, since his portrait was removed from the first floor. He hasn't been seen in the lounge. So maybe when the portrait was removed, that sent him to the light, or perhaps he's reincarnated.
They served with us medieval cutlery on the fork.
This is the way down to the battlefield. Now let's go and find it. It's quite overgrown. At least we've had our food, babe.
Yes, we have.
I was ready for that, were you?
I was, yeah. I was getting a bit hungry.
We had breakfast, but we've walked from the hotel, and that's nearly half an hour,
Yeah.
and had a mooch right down the main thoroughfare.
Doesn't feel like half an hour.
No, it didn't. Well, there's lots to see on the way.
Yeah.
And then we were in the museum for quite a while, up and downstairs and mooching around. Oh yes, this is the field.
This is the field, yeah.
Right. Well, we'll stand here for a moment or two then. I can just imagine the cry of the horses and the soldiers in the bloody battle. So what do you think of that, Dan?
Yes, very interesting, isn't it?
Can you pick up any energies at all from here?
Nice energy at the moment because it's all been cleansed by nature, I think.
Yes, I can imagine the battle. I can just imagine it in my mind's eye. But it is peaceful now.
It's very nice.
I can still pick up though some of that energy. I can actually pick some of that energy up. But then I'm very, very sensitive to vibration. But it's just like it goes from the past. It's not a horrible feeling that you might have with other battlefields. It's a gentle feeling, if you like.
Like a gentle reminder.
Yeah, a gentle reminder of what went on here.
Yeah.
I can feel that, I can hear the vibrations and feel the vibrations, but it's like they're in the dim past. It's like they're just a distant echo rather than something thundering in the ear. But it's beautiful
It's a
here.
lovely place.
You could have a picnic on here quite
definitely.
happily. A bloody picnic.
Yeah.
B-L-U-D-D-Y, the old spelling.
Yeah.
So off to the Royal Hop Pole we go.
There you go.
This is the Royal Hop Pole, which is one of the Wetherspoons hotels and hostelries. This has 3 different haunted happenings which all happen on the first floor. So let's go in and take a look and talk about things. Part of this hotel is 15th century, however part of it has been dated to 1372. During the renovations in 2006-2007, builders opened up a boarded up area of the hotel and were amazed to find a long lost medieval hall dating back to 1372. The discovery was significant as it made the Royal Hop Pole building considerably older than originally thought. Traces of decorative paintwork were also revealed. But this isn't the oldest establishment. The oldest hostelry is the Black Bear, which is right at the bottom of the high street near the toll bridge, and we will be going there next. Anyway, this hostelry is home to several apparitions on the first floor. In the 1990s, a night porter working at the hotel went out into the old stable yard out back. This was a coaching inn. In the early hours of the morning to fill some coal buckets. He became aware of something standing next to him. The apparition resembled Charles II with long dark hair and wearing a black coat. The porter said that the ghost stayed there for a few minutes and then walked silently away down an alley next to the hotel and disappeared. Other ghosts have been sighted. There's a young lad who's been sighted in 16th century costume in the dining room. It's believed that the ghost of a young boy who suffocated whilst trying to escape from the Roundhead soldiers by hiding up the wide chimney is this ghost. An apparition of a distressed young girl has also been seen in the back wing of the hotel, and is believed to be the ghost of a young girl who was killed by the hotel chef in the 1930s. He cut her throat with a kitchen knife, and her body was found a few days later in the nearby river Swoolgate. And the chef also threw himself down there. So this is quite a haunted building, and we have friends who stayed here, and they were also aware of the ghosts. We've been in here a few times, haven't we, babe?
Yes, we have.
And we felt a bit of draft down the
Yeah, I felt a
main
bit chilly the
corridor,
other day when we were in here.
down from the main door, and we've nicknamed it the haunted corridor. Yesterday when we were in here, we were talking about apparitions. Dan went to the loo and I heard what sounded like a machine going, "Whoa." But we haven't heard it before or since. It just made me wonder. We did try the Seer app, but it didn't really pick up anything. But to use the app to its advantage, it needs to hook up to a good internet connection and to other sites that might have photographs of haunted happenings. So we're going to drink up, we have some water, we're going to drink up, and then we're going to walk down to the Black Bear. Okay, look after yourself. Bye. Bye.
Here we go.
I'm being talked about again. I always end up being talked about. What is that? This is the Old Black Bear. This is the oldest pub in Tewkesbury, and it is extremely haunted with both ghostly and poltergeist activity, apparently. So we're going to go in and find out for ourselves. Please what's a good idea? To walk in the street.
Yeah.
I might need one of those by tonight.
It's had very good energy in it. I think they've cleansed it since they've done it up. feels cleansed.
It's not been opened anymore.
No, it's all very smart. Yeah, for the footy. Yeah, it's very nice. There's the toilets. Thursday's Tasty Thai. Friday's Tasty Thai. Saturday Smoky Grill. And I think that's food and rather than music. I've never heard of a band called Tasty Thai.
Have you seen up there?
Yeah, it's all original features there.
Yeah, go ahead. You've got too much choice. Oh,
There's our landlord. They've got Old Rosie of Kansas Island.
Betty Bar, Premium Ale, Hop Farmer, Hoppy. I might try a Hop Farmer. This is the Black Bear, and this, as you can see, was originally established in 1308. Although there's some parts that are more modern from the early 15th century, stables. It's been modernised quite a lot, but it has got a nice energy. In particular, this room has a nice energy.
This was once the saloon bar, and it says on a plaque on the wall that it was once an official market house where farmers and merchants met to inspect samples of grain, flour and malt and strike bargains, of course spelt incorrectly on the wall there. On Wednesdays and Saturdays the crossroads were busy with shepherds displaying fleeces, the blacksmith working his forge while pedlars mingled in the crowds. So this was would have been quite busy with selling and trade and commerce.
We noticed that there aren't any horseshoes. Now, legend has it that there was a lot of poltergeist activity where horseshoes were flung across the bar and also glasses across the bar by poltergeist activity, and that if the landlord removed the horseshoes, then he would be doomed to failure. And we haven't been able to find any horseshoes yet. We're going to see if there are any at all. The thing is, they tried to shut this pub down. It hadn't been open that long, and then later last year there were plans afoot to try and get it shut down. So there may be some kind of truth to the legend, even though as yet the plan to get it shut down hasn't worked. The first ghost associated with this place is a cavalier soldier with his horse at the back of the pub. Then there's been a sighting of a little old lady dressed in black in the smallest room of the pub, which we think is a lot of the poltergeist activity has been associated with this front bar, this area, even though it's got a good energy. So I'm presuming it might have been cleansed since the throwing of horseshoes and glasses.
It does feel cleansed, especially in the main part of the pub.
Yeah, but it's got a nice feel to it, it's quite cosy.
Yeah, it's this room especially.
The music isn't as loud in here. I really like the ceiling with the roses.
Roses.
Because of course this Tewkesbury is associated with wars and roses. So there's red roses and white roses everywhere to symbolise Yorkshire and Lancashire. We started off, my brother and I, in Yorkshire, but Mum was from Lancashire and Dad was from the Lake District, so he'd be from Lancashire forces too. And I'm drinking a very nice half here. It's a hot master, this one. It's smooth. It's got a slight sharpness to it, which I like. in a beer, and it is quite delicious. I could easily drink another of these. Chin chin.
And I've got the local porter, which is also very nice.
That also had a single
Cheers.
carbonation. Well, we've come outside. It's beautiful. Beautiful beer garden right on the bridge. And as you can see, it's all been opened up at the back. We've got lighting, decking. It really is a lovely place to spend an hour or so. I have Hopfather. It has a single finger carbonation. It's got a strong smell of hops. I can also smell elderflower. It's 3.9 ABV. That's lovely and smooth. It's got a slight citrusy tone, but it does taste of hops, and also elderflower comes through. It's a lovely amber colour there, and I could drink this all afternoon. It is quite delicious. It's not the strongest of lagers, but it feels stronger than it actually is. It's very drinkable. You could easily drink a few of these with a curry, for example, or just like this in the sunshine.
And this is Black Bear Bitter, named after the pub, of course.
Again, it's single finger carbonation.
And let's have a taste.
It's a deep amber colour.
Taste is quite mellow, really.
So not very bitter.
Not really, quite malty.
Yes.
Almost like a honey taste, really. With a very slight hoppiness. It's very nice, very drinkable.
And neither of them are fizzy.
No,
They're good quality, aren't
got
they?
a good bubble. If you look at it, when
Yeah.
you drink properly, you can see the way
Yes.
the bubbles dance around.
This one is the Wye Valley Brewing Company, the one I've got. So the Tudor House is our next location. This fabulous hostelry and inn, it's a free house I believe, was once the Tewkesbury Presbyterian Academy, and the founder was a man called Samuel Jones, and Thomas Secker, Archbishop of Canterbury, was a pupil here. Also John Moore, the author, lived here as a boy, so this is where he lived. And what was tragic is that his father died in 1918 when he was only 11 years old. And this is really interesting because we went to see John Moore's museum this morning, and he himself was only 60 years old when he passed away, but in the time he was alive he was recognised as a key naturalist, and he also was an author of 40 books. Quite incredible. Now this place has been associated with 3 ghosts, as well as some poltergeist activity, and we're going to take a look in and see if we can feel any energy in this building. So far we've not had much luck.
I must have scared them off.
now is a secret priest hole. But it's said that this priest hole is where the Prince of Wales, later Charles II, hid after the Battle of Worcester in 1651. Of course, Charles II went off into exile in France and was restored to the throne in 1659, hence the expression restoration period. And of course, Cromwell himself was soon after put to death. However, for a while, King Charles II was still at risk of being captured again or overthrown, and therefore he tended to go to places where there was a priest hole or some kind of tunnel, like the Restoration House in Rochester, where he could make a quick escape, because things were still on very shaky ground in 1659 once he'd been restored to the throne. I'm having a lovely dry white wine and soda, and Dan is having Bombay Sapphire Gin, Chin. It's reached about 21 degrees today, and it's nice and balmy. It was cold first thing this morning, and it was overcast till lunchtime, and then the sun came out. It's been lovely. This is a 16th century coaching inn. The hotel has 24 bedrooms, all refurbished. It's got a variety of different rooms, like a lot of the establishments here in Tewkesbury, and that would have been the case anyway with most older buildings. They wouldn't have just had one room, it would have been split into different rooms, and it gives it a nice ambience. This is of course Henry VIII and the Six Wives room. I like all the wooden panelling. It's got the priest hole as well in this room. I love the lighting and the beams. It's got a really nice atmosphere, and the staff are lovely. We had a really good chat with the bar manager. The drinks are good, quite expensive but very delicious. This place is associated with 3 different spirits. The first and most notable is that of the drummer boy. On one occasion, a couple was staying in one of the rooms upstairs. The woman hadn't been drinking, although her husband had. He was sound asleep all night. She woke up about 4 o'clock in the morning and could hear drumming. And several other people staying could also hear the drumming. And the next morning, when they came downstairs, the receptionist said, "Oh, that would have been the drummer boy that you heard." The second ghost is a one-time maid who tucks people into bed. That might be quite freaky. If a ghost tucked me into bed, I'd be, yikes. Maybe when they're falling asleep they might not notice quite so much, but I'm sure I would. Do you think you would be freaked out at something like that?
Probably not. I'm used to things like that.
I don't know, when it suddenly happens, even though we're used to it, it might be quite freaky.
Yes, because it usually happens quite unexpected when you get manifestations like this.
And then the third spirit is a sergeant major who is said to inhabit the building.
Yes. And there's also the ghost of a dog.
So there's 4 spirits.
4,
there.
yes.
And where's the dog scene?
I think all over the hotel. Various parts of it. Felt.
Well, he must appear in maybe shadowy form.
Probably, yes.
Although we've both seen spirits in the past who've had full bodily form. I once remember waving to somebody. I was waiting for somebody outside one of the underground stations, and I thought it was she coming down the ramp, and I waved, and this guy who was outside having a cigarette looked at me like I was crazy, because when I looked again, there was nobody coming down the ramp at all. They'd disappeared. And yet they had solid form.
Interesting.
But we're not really scared of ghosts, but I think if it happened suddenly and we had no warning, like if we were going to sleep and suddenly we felt something, that might be different.
Yeah, probably startled by that.
Yes, probably. Do you feel anything at all in this building?
When I went to the loo and past the stairs leading up to the rooms, it was a bit cold round there.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you pick anything up on your SEER app?
No, I didn't have that running because it needs the internet connection. It's not that reliable, really. I don't know what the other investigators had to use to have it running.
Mostly SEER is used, and I guess the other one that's used quite a lot is the spirit box, which I'm going to get for a Christmas present to myself. I don't know how they use it, to be honest, because normally you'd be going into places where there was no internet or anything. Some of the locations are quite remote, so I'm not sure how it best works. We might need to investigate and find out what we need to do for it to work. I know Kalani Ghost Hunter, he has one, and he also has the spirit box. I think we need to investigate that anyway. But it's a very nice room.
It's a lovely room. It's quite cosy, isn't it?
And Henry VIII isn't at his fattest.
No, it's
He's
a
at
young
his
Henry.
most handsome.
Before his jousting accident.
And don't you think he looks a bit like Prince Harry?
A little bit, yes.
Yeah. Very handsome man.
Yes.
And he's got all the wives.
All his
around
wives.
him. 2, 4, 6.
Yes.
Annabellina. That's Lady Jane Grey. She was
Queen of 1,000 days? Yeah, 9 days
queen.
queen.
And she's a Plantagenet.
Bit later.
No, the Plantagenets
Were they earlier?
were earlier.
Oh, right.
The Plantagenets came, and then the Tudors were considered to be usurpers. You know, Richard III was a Plantagenet,
Yes.
and he got overthrown by Henry VII. He was Tudor. They were part of the royal family, but different branches.
Yes.
And Lady Jane Grey was a Plantagenet.
Oh, right.
She was descended from the Plantagenets, not the Tudors. The Tudors, in some quarters, are always considered to be usurpers, and not, in fact, the real heirs to the throne. Even Richard III, who was a Plantagenet, was considered to be a usurper because of the princes in the Tower. And of course the elder prince was the one who should have been the next king.
Yes.
Now we are on the final leg of our pub crawl, and we are at the Cross House pub, which is on the corner of Tolly's Lane, which is our last haunted location. Before we take a close look at Tolly's Lane, we're having a wee dram of the Minch's medium dry cider. It's real cider, so there's no rubbish in it.
It's 5.5.
Yeah, 5.5
Yeah.
ABV.
Yeah.
So this is 5.5 ABV.
Cheers.
Like a strong lager. And very delicious too. Smooth, and it slides down a treat. Very little carbonation. Just a few bubbles. Nice deep straw colour. Smooth on the palate. Slightly perfumed flavour. The real natural sweetness of the apples comes through. That's really appley. And that's where you get the perfume from as well. It's the apples. Slight hint of apple blossom there, and it's absolutely delicious. The other night we met the man who brews this stuff. Lovely guy, nice people, nice pub, very happy. This is the club's house, or the side of the club's house, which goes right down there. It's a substantial merchant's house, thought to stand on the site of the medieval courthouse of the Lords of Tewkesbury. Built in the 15th century, initially 2-storey and at least 2 separate abodes. Probably the residence of Giles Geest, an imported Tudor philanthropist. The adjacent Tolsey Lane was once called Geest Lane. The house was greatly altered in the Tudor and Stuart periods, with the addition of a 3rd storey and some especially fine internal panelling and staircases. In the 1860s, Thomas Collins, a local conservationist, restored the building and removed the Georgian carpeting, exposing again the timber frame. And here it is. And then this lane is said to be haunted by a funeral procession. A horse-drawn carriage has the coffin on the back, and the people up front are dressed in black, and the women are wearing veils. And the dark one down here. This is the narrow part of the lane. And it's been seen by even police officers. But it needs to be really quiet. And that's the spanning, tweezing and spanning. This is getting. Now there's a story about this as well, because at one time this was a well-known retailer, and occupants were terrified of some small black creature, neither dog or cat, lurking in the cellar, and the sense of evil that emanated from it meant that people could not even bear to go right down into the cellar. They'd only take a couple of steps and they couldn't go any further. Well, one particular time, there was a reporter and a photographer who came to investigate the building, and photographs were taken of a small dark creature in the cellar. So, later that day, the reporter went and wrote up her report, and the next day when she came to edit it, she couldn't find the report anywhere, even though all the other information, all the other reports was still on the system. Hers was nowhere to be found. And in the 1950s, this was a clothing shop. This is now the Undertaker's. Can you remember any other activity from here, Dan? Well, this is the point where our long haunted pub crawl comes to an end, and we're going back to our hotel now, just as it becomes very cold and the wind has suddenly got up, and one can almost feel a sense of ghostliness about the area. I think if we were to stay an extra 2 or 3 hours and become further imbibed, we might see a ghostly funeral procession. We have a long day though tomorrow, and we've taken in a lot. It's been a fantastic day, and while we haven't actually managed to capture much evidence, we've had certain feelings about the energy around us, and we therefore think that to a certain degree Tewkesbury is still haunted. Stay safe in your beds tonight, sleep tight, see you again soon.